This is the GamesIndustry.biz Microcast, recorded on Tuesday, the 4th of June 2024. I am James Batchelor, Editor-in-Chief of GamesIndustry.biz. I am joined, as always, by Head of GamesIndustry.biz, Chris String. We're going to be talking about the biggest stories from the past week, and this week we're going to be talking a fair amount about the week ahead. We're going to start by talking State of Play, the big PlayStation showcase from last week. Chris, you covered this. What was the highlight of State of Play, and why was it Astrobot?
Astrobot is the highlight of the highlight of the generation. Astros. But I did a tweet, naturally upset some people, where even though I don't really know how, where I pointed out that Sony said they didn't have any major games, they didn't have a game in their major franchise, but obviously they've announced a new Astrobot, which is the sequel to the 56 million selling Astros Playroom. Obviously, I was joking. I know that it was bundled with the console for free, but that didn't stop people getting wound up about it. But anyway, yeah, it was Astrobot. It was amazing. I love Astrobot. It's a great game. It is the closest I've come to a Mario game on a non-Nintendo platform. I think it is maybe Banjo-Kazooie back in the day, and that was on Nintendo platform anyway. So watching
that trailer, like I my tweet didn't quite annoy as many people as you, but like I did. My thoughts on this were like, this is the Mario Star Fox crossover I never knew I wanted. Like it looks brilliant. Like, and it's. I love that Sony have got. Sony don't have many mascots in terms of the family side of things. Like obviously they've got a lot of familiar characters for the core audience.
Is that true? Are you forgetting Sackboy?
I am forgetting Sackboy. I am forgetting Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper. No, yeah, fair point. Okay, but they're not
Jack and Daxter.
Okay, I bloody love Jack and Daxter. Okay, but I guess what I mean is they're not as prominent in that space as Nintendo. They're not as prominent in that space as Nintendo are, and it's really nice to see them doing more with Astrobot. And I also love like all the Astrobot. Certainly, the last Astrobot game, the game that got packed in with the PlayStation, is very kind of heavy on the nostalgia for Sony hardware, and there's still elements of that in the trailer for this one.
This seems to go quite hard on that as well. I thought it looked great. It's interesting though. There was a bit of criticism around State of Play because outside of Astrobot, which, just to be honest, is not appealing to the core PlayStation audience.
No,
it's slightly more broader. It was a slightly weaker showing, but I think with these press conferences is trying to see if you can spot what the next thing will be. Because somebody pointed out to me, it might have been Keeley actually, pointed out to me that last year Helldivers 2 and Power World were featured in those press conferences, right? And nobody was sitting there going, yes, that's the thing that's going to sell 15 million units. Yeah. No one was doing that. And those games obviously came out to become defining. And I think that's the thing with these shows. We all get very excited about the big shocks and surprises and reveals. But actually, what was really there that's going to connect with fans, and the ability to spot that is beyond. I'll be doing a different job if I could do that. But yeah. So it wasn't the most exciting. I think Concord and Astrobot were Sony's big ones. They've got a remaster of Until Dawn, or remake before. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. Don't shout at the internet. Those. So, but hey, Concord might be the next big live service game.
Yeah.
It might not be. We don't know. It might be.
Interesting to see them opening with Concord. We've talked about this with Sony a lot over the last couple of years. Obviously, like they're trying to shift towards, not away from like their big single-player cinematic blockbusters entirely. I don't think they ever will shift away from that, but they're shifting more towards. They're trying to fill the gap in their portfolio by focusing more on live service games. And I don't know. I think partly because of my own personal taste, but also like some of the leaked live service games that have come out over the years. Like there's rumours of the Horizon one, and I personally think like Horizon's got a different enough structure that would make it stand out from like the typical hero shooters, arena shooters and so forth. There was that leaked trailer earlier this year for Spider-Man The Great Web, which is a live service Spider-Man game. I would absolutely be down for that. So when I see things like Concord... Was it cancelled? There's a trailer and it was leaked, and I think it was cancelled. And it's like, the trouble is, I now look at every Sony live service game through the lens of why this one rather than a Spider-Man, which builds on one of your big fastest sellers and is very different to the other sort of live service games out there, or Horizon, which again is very kind of different to the. And again, that may be my personal preferences leaking through there, but like Concord didn't stand out to me in quite the way that a Horizon or a Spider-Man Great Web would have done. That might just be me.
Yeah, I think I think Spider-Man. I think Horizon's interesting, right? Because when you're making a live service game, you have to turn out content quite quickly. You have to turn out updates quite quickly. And Guerrilla are known for their super perfectionism, right, behind the visuals of their stuff. So trying to get that studio that probably spends meticulously trying to craft every little item and to be visually perfect, to suddenly having to quick, this is good enough, ship it.
Yeah.
Which is what you do with live service, is going to be a bit of a challenge for them, I suspect. Yeah, I think, but the thing is, a lot of the Sony stuff, I think a lot of the stuff that will probably hit big for Sony is probably going to be the stuff they're doing that's new. So obviously Concord, maybe Fair Games, which is the, is it Fair Games?
It's Fair Games, the Jed Raymond one.
Haven,
I'm surprised that Fair Games wasn't there. I was expecting to see a bit more of it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think this was a Nintendo Direct style PlayStation press conference, in that they were showing stuff that's coming up this year. Right? There were 3 PlayStation games, all of them out before the end of October. Right, first party PlayStation games. There were more than 3.
Yeah.
And even the stuff that's in 2025, from what I understand, is early 2025. So we didn't see hey, this is what we've got for the next 2-3 years. It's what we've got in August and September. In fact, there was a moment where, I was going to tweet about it. The poor PR team, they've got Concord, and almost like followed 2 weeks later by Astrobot, followed 2 weeks later by the God of War PC release.
Yeah.
The Ragnarok PC release. So so they really just went, here's what we've got for Christmas. And it's true, they don't have any of their major franchises really, but there's some interesting stuff there, and you never know what will break. And I think, though, we're going to see that generally be a trend throughout this Summer Games Fest. There'll be some interesting bits. There might be I think Nintendo's going to be at the end. Before I'm using Summer Games Fest as a shorthand for the period. I don't care what you call it. You can call it not E3. You can call it E3. You can call it the month of video game announcements if you want to. Please don't shout at me on Twitter for it. It's everyone's getting shouted at.
I love how you keep on asking not to be shouted at, knowing full well you will be shouted at.
I'm just going to turn it off. So I think we're going to see. I don't expect much from Nintendo either, because I don't know. By the way, before again, it's not. This is just. It's the end of their life cycle of their console. It tends to be a bit quieter. I would be delighted if there was a Metroid Prime 4, but I'm not expecting anything at the minute. I think Xbox would be the exception, obviously, because they've got so many studios. We're expecting to hear updates on so many of their games. I'm hoping, and so there's a lot. I think Xbox is going to be the one. I think that's going to be the event to pay attention to this year. And of course, they don't get any bigger than Call of Duty, and that's how they're capping off their event. So I think Summer Games Fest is whatever you call it is probably going to be an Xbox headlined event. Yeah.
But no, even so, looking specifically at the Summer Game Fest, the Jeff Keighley show, like you're talking about, not expecting too many big reveals and so forth. Like Jeff Keighley has been, like, the last 24 hours, 48 hours, like really kind of reining in expectations. Like
he always does that.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's specifically said, like, Summer Game Fest will focus on games that are already announced. He has said, like, there is no One Last Thing game this year. Like, he might be lying. We can only hope. But like, it does. He's referring to it as a lighter year. He's suggesting that there won't be as many kind of massive surprises this year.
It doesn't help that Microsoft owns half the AAA games industry now. So
I mean,
if you're going to announce a shocking brand, it's going to be in the Xbox showcase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. No, that's fair. No, Xbox is going to be the platform for the biggest ones, definitely.
Yeah, but, and I think events like Keighley's event is going to suffer the most from this, because if, let's say, you're Sony and you've only got 3 significant games to announce, right? You're gonna let's again, in previous years they might have put a smaller announcement in Jeff's event, right? But this year they're going, oh, we kind of need it for ours because we don't have a huge showing, right? Maybe Until Dawn would have made it into Keighley's thing. And same with, like, any of the other platform holders. If you don't have that many games to announce, maybe you would, you've got to try and keep, if Sony's going, oh, we need a Monster Hunter Wilds, all that kind of stuff that that you're going to get from games companies. They're going to go, look, let's be clear, the big ones are Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo. They're the big ones, right? And then whatever's left over gets into Jeff Keighley's events and PC Game. And so if those 3 events aren't that strong, then the fall down is going to be weaker as well. So I think it is going to be a quieter year. I do think, though, at the same time, we know so little about the rest of this year that I think there might be a few like, oh, that's coming sooner than I thought. I mean, that's the thing with Sony's event. Even though it wasn't that exciting, Astrobot in September made me go, oh,
yeah,
that's only around the corner. So it was so there was a few, and I think we might get a few things we do get announced. I mean, it may not be a huge amount of announcements, but what we do get announced, I think, won't be far away. And I think that's the thing that's most interesting. We're not having to wait. And here's the thing, like I'm doing a piece on E3. I think this podcast will be up before it goes up. It's a really long piece. But so much of E3 used to be smoke and mirrors. It used to be, here's something that you're never really going to play. You know, it's and it would be like Beyond Good and Evil 2 and you know, even things like The Last Guardian when it was first revealed, or Shenmue when it's first revealed, or Final Fantasy VII Remake. They were like 5-6 years away. You don't really get that anymore. Not really. Occasionally, but not really. You get, here is a game that's coming out in the next 6 months, and you could probably even play it. And the stuff that you're seeing is mostly the final game. No,
it's true. You kind of get the two ends of the spectrum, don't you? You get like, here's a game that is coming out within the next 6 months to a year, or we're announcing a game that you're not going to see for about 5 years, but we're announcing it now because we're recruiting for it. Like, those are the two ends of the
you do get that, but I haven't had it for a while.
We haven't had it for a while, no.
It's like you used to get, you're right, E3 used to have two ends of the spectrum. In fact, I interviewed a guy called Liam Winkler who handled Ubisoft's E3 at press conferences. He talked about E3 2017 being his favourite, and that started with the two extremes. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which was a huge moment for them, which was out 2 months after that E3 reveal.
Yeah.
And Beyond Good and Evil 2, which we've still not seen.
We've still not seen.
So it's like, but it you know, there was always a, you always do a bit of it. There was he referred to those sort of moments as jazz hand moments where you go, look, a thing. But we're not really had much of that. I'm genuinely like, you know, I actually to the point where when they revealed Monster Hunter Wilds at one of the things last year, and it was not out till 2025. I remember thinking, wow, that's that's an early announcement. Whereas back, you know, not so long ago, it wasn't uncommon for games to be shown and then appear at 4 Sony press conferences before it came out. But yeah, I think we're going to see. I think particularly with the, you know, development timelines being harder to predict, and the attention of the audience being sort of harder. I think very few games you're going to get these days. The big ones, sure, maybe a Zelda or whatever, but you're not going to get too many games announced too far out, I don't think, these days. And that's going to be true of this period, I think.
Yeah.
It's a prediction.
I agree. I'm going to kind of avoid, but it's killing me not to say that, oh, what are your predictions for not E3 this year? But like, that's a fool's game. As we've literally been saying, you can't predict what's going to be there, and you can't predict what's going to be a hit.
I can tell you what I want to be there.
Okay,
I wanted Astrobot. Bingo, got that one. I want Fable. I can't wait for Fable on Xbox. I'd love to see something from Rare. Everwild, basically, because I do love seeing Sea of Thieves stuff, to be clear. I love Sea of Thieves, as anyone that knows me knows that. But I would like to see the next thing from Rare, because they're my favourite studio. But that's what I'd like to see. I'd love to see a cool Nintendo game for Christmas. As a Nintendo fanboy, I would just be delighted if it was Wind Waker HD on Switch.
Oh, please,
genuinely, that's all I need. I know it's a really boring thing to wish for, but if Metroid Prime 4 or something like that would be really cool. So that's my wish list. But I don't know, be clear, that's just a wish list. I haven't got insider knowledge, or do I?
You're such a tease. Yeah, no, I'm same with you. I would love. I don't think we're going to get it. I'd love a bit more clarification on what's happening with the Perfect Dark remake at the Initiative. Purely because there's been
it's a reboot, isn't it?
It's a reboot. Sorry, yeah, reboot, because there's so many reports about things not going brilliantly behind there. It's like, I need reassurance.
It's hard to build a AAA game and a studio and a culture at the same time.
It is, absolutely, yes.
And it's like, you look at certain games that have taken a long time to come out, like Fable, for instance. They were building that team and the engine and the game at the same time. And I know there's lots of infighting and disagreements, and this isn't the direction we wanted to go in, and things have gone backwards and then forwards and backwards and forwards. They've brought in different people and different support studios. That is going to happen. The annoying thing, they announced the game so early, and these sort of stories are playing out in the press, but I'm not too worried about that yet.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'd love to see it as well.
No, fair enough. One thing I'm not particularly interested in seeing, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Or, as I referred to on our Trello board, COD COD Blops 6, because I remember when the...
I like the way you're referring to COD Blops as if that's a new thing.
No, that's my point. I'm bringing COD Blops back. I'm bringing back...
You're bringing it back, are you?
I'm bringing it back. Me, James Matter, am bringing it back. No, I don't. I've not seen it referred to as COD Blops since like the early one. So like it's COD Blops. COD Blops 6 is coming out later this year. They are doing a full half-hour reveal of it after the Xbox Showcase, dedicated solely to the game. I'll be quite frank, I don't give a damn about the content of the game, but what I am interested in is the fact that they have confirmed that Call of Duty is going to launch on Game Pass day and date with the physical and the digital releases. Now, we'll just preface this with, we know fanboys are whining. This brings back the whole wah around the Microsoft Activision acquisition. Obviously, the wah around that should have been more about the impact of mass consolidation and not whether or not people get to play Call of Duty. But I've seen people, didn't they promise that they can't do that? I was looking back through like all our coverage. I don't think they ever promised they weren't going to.
I'll be honest. I always assumed this was the whole plan.
This was going to be the plan. Yeah, exactly.
It's like you can get it on PlayStation, but if you want it in a subscription service, you have to get it on Xbox or PC. And in fact, if PlayStation, you can get it on PlayStation subscription service if PlayStation allowed Xbox Game Pass to be on PlayStation, which they would never do.
No. The only thing they ever promised during the acquisition is that they're not going to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox platforms for 10 years. That is it. That's all they promised. And let's
be clear, that means they're never going to make the game exclusive to Xbox platforms. Because I'm not entirely sure. Platforms in 10 years will be so different.
Oh, massively. Yeah, absolutely. But even though this was kind of obvious and this was, as you say, like this was kind of the play the whole time, actually seeing it confirmed, like this
I think there was doubt. There was doubt around it because Xbox seemed to have just started to look. Here's the thing: I've been writing and interviewing Xbox for 5-6 years, and they would begin with it was Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. In the last 2 years, it's become Game Pass is really just one model, right? And it's definitely a softening of focus. And there's certain you saw. I obviously don't have the data they have. But I looked at things like Starfield. A big Bethesda game should be in the top 10 selling games of the year. And and outside of, I'm not quite sure where it was in the US, but in Europe and where it would normally be, it was outside of the top 30. And so you can't deny that when it comes to day and date exclusive games on Xbox, the Game Pass is having a detrimental impact upon the sales of those titles. So, obviously, a game like an indie game or a smaller title that's in a subscription service like Stray or even Rocket League, if you want to go that far, might end up getting a big boost on other platforms. I don't think Call of Duty is that game that's going, what we need is more marketing for Call of Duty. I don't think awareness is the problem for Call of Duty. So putting the game in Game Pass, I think it's really hard to not argue the fact that it's going to cost money. Like people are going to lose money. Money's not lose money, but less money is going to be made as a result of that decision, potentially. And this is the biggest game ever to go day and date in a subscription service
massively.
in video games. Right? There is nothing close to it. Starfield was probably the closest one, and that's a million miles away from the scale of this. So it is a massive deal. I know that back in the early days of Sony fighting this was what they actually feared, this impact. Now, I have got my not wearing a subscription services. I love a subscription service. I have my doubts of the ability for subscription services to become absolutely massive because I feel that the outside of the hardcore gamers, who do subscribe to this stuff, most gamers only play a couple of games a year, and telling them, hey, subscribe to Game Pass, subscribe to PS Plus, whatever it is, they're going to go, what? So I can play hundreds. I only play 2, and one of them's GTA, right? And one of them's FIFA.
We've been saying this for years. Like people consume games differently than they consume TV, film, music, which have also been disrupted by subscription.
And I think that's as a result, subscription won't disrupt games in quite the same way, and hasn't done yet. Really, it has had an impact. Let's be clear. It's not like VR or something like that. It's a small niche. It's like it's definitely, but. Call of Duty is different. Call of Duty is a game that more casual's not the right word, but slightly more less hardcore gamers do invest in. And so this is interesting. If this game can't massively drive subscribers into Game Pass, I think we must know that subscriptions has got its cap. but maybe it will. And I think it's the biggest test. And you know what? Hats off to Xbox for going for it, because there was a moment where we thought they were losing the bottle on their Game Pass, or at least people in the industry. The chatter in the industry was around. I think they've lost. I think they're going to have to scale it back. They're going to have to move away from day and date. People pointed out the fact that you can buy the game. If you buy the game, you can get the game earlier. Is kind of already moving away from day and date. Although I don't think a week really makes a difference. No. But so for me, this is massive. It's a really big deal. It's going to be a real major test, and Xbox is going for it. And hats off to them, because right now the industry could do with a bit of disrupting. And although I have my doubts on subscriptions and the impact it's going to have on the commercials of the games industry, and I've had my worries about it, since for 5 years now, I've been talking about that. I can't deny that the games industry needs something to give it a bit of a kick, and maybe it is subscription. Maybe it is.
No, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Like, that's exactly why I'm really interested to see how well this performs. Like, you're right. Like, the broader industry test, or litmus test of is this, can Call of Duty drive subscriptions? Like, if that can't, then nothing can. Not until
it's worth noting, it's not only Microsoft that gets this, because Ubisoft do as well.
Of course, yes.
Because Activision, if you remember, as part of the get through the deal through the regulators, Microsoft did a deal where they said basically they were going to give away the streaming rights. Not give it away, I'm sure they made money out of it, but they sold the streaming rights to Activision Blizzard's games to Ubisoft. So Ubisoft have Ubisoft Plus. Ubisoft Plus, I think it's Ubisoft Plus, which has a lot of Ubisoft games in it. They do have some other games in there as well, and at some point Activision games will be added to it. Now they'll be streamed, and I'm not entirely sure Call of Duty is the best streaming game, but it is
given the lag I had on Xbox Cloud Gaming the other day when I was trying to sell my son Disney Dreamlight Valley, I can only imagine what Call of Duty is like on a cloud connection. No, I'm really interested to see how this does, like, as you said, like the broader industry implications. But I feel like for Xbox, and I don't want to say this is going to sound more dramatic than I want it to. I'm trying not to use the words like last ditch, but this feels like the last big push. Beyond, it's like you say, beyond this, I don't know what else they can do to drive Game Pass. And given that they previously spent years talking this up as their vision of the future of Microsoft, the future of gaming, if this doesn't work, what will?
It's interesting. I think I was sort of expecting this Xbox E3 press conference to have a lot of whatever you call it showcase to feature a lot of games that's going to be on multiple platforms, and that we might even start seeing a pullback from Game Pass. After the Call of Duty announcement, I wonder actually if you're right. This is them going, no, we're going to try and make a big crack at this. Yeah. Indiana Jones. And these are going to be Xbox exclusives for at least for the time being, and I wonder if it actually will be Microsoft, really, because they've got a good lineup, good games. Call of Duty don't get bigger than that, and maybe they view this as an opportunity, particularly with PlayStation at the minute, who are their big game is Astrobot, which big for me, not for anyone else. What I will say, can I say the little bit I'm interested in?
Go for it.
I'm interested to see whether some of these Xbox games that are coming up, whether they're going to have physical retail releases.
That is interesting, yeah.
Because Hellblade didn't. And Xbox is now getting to that, well, it's been at that point for a while, but it's really at that point now where its sales are so heavily digital that it's almost... that has two effects, right? On the one hand, the benefits of releasing a physical disc isn't as big. But second of all, retailers don't really like supporting those products. So you end up getting this thing where it's like, do they bother? And obviously the thing with digital games, if you're only going digital only, you don't have to get your game ready 3 months in advance of the game coming out, or at least have it in a state where a patch will get it there. So I do wonder if it'd be interesting to see whether what we saw with Hellblade, Call of Duty will be released physically. No doubt. But I do wonder if some of their other games, whether we're going to see digital only Xbox games going forward. I don't know, but it's just something that I'm interested in. I don't know if we'll find that out next week, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Last point on Call of Duty on Game Pass, I'm also intrigued to see what they do with the Call of Duty back catalogue and putting it on Game Pass. And I say that because obviously they announced last year they were going to start bringing Activision games to Game Pass. I think the only big one so far is Diablo 4. Can't even think of many other Activision titles that are on Game Pass yet. I'm wondering if they do are kind of, if they drip feed it Nintendo Virtual Console style, so you get like a new Call of Duty or an old Call of Duty added to Game Pass every few months, or if Sunday we will see them go, and all the Call of Duties are on Game Pass
That's
now.
interesting. I would argue that all of those games are competition for each other.
That's the thing, yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. I bet it's a good question to have. I don't know. You're right. Because last year's Call of Duty wasn't a big hit. So do you go, let's drop all the Call of Duty stuff now, get everyone really excited and hyped up about Call of Duty as a brand and a franchise, and then drop Call of Duty Black Ops 6? I definitely don't think you do it alongside Black Ops 6.
No, you absolutely no. I'm with you. I think you shadow drop all of them, or at least most of them, like this week, and people are like, play back like the original Modern Warfares and the early Blops,
or maybe all the Black Opses,
all the Blops,
World at War, and
all the Blops. One blop. And how many blops are there? Because you do like one blops per month until 6.
There are 5 blops, I think, but there's also is it Call of Duty World at War, whatever it was, it's sort of in that universe, is in the blops universe.
Do you think they'll rebrand it?
Oh, look what you've done! I've said blops. I've done it.
Victory. Hereby known, World at War is hereby known as the Blops prologue. Okay, we are rapidly running out of time, but I do want to touch on one more story, if I may. Less of a story, more of a trend. The number of live action or your screen adaptation of video game franchises, or even video game people, that have been announced in the last few days alone. So this morning alone, I've written up a story that Like a Dragon, or Yakuza, or Like a Dragon Yakuza, is being made into a 6-part series that's going on Amazon Prime Video, starts in October. Netflix has announced they're making a Minecraft animated series, and John Romero, his autobiography Doom Guy, which I read last year, is actually really good, is getting 2 adaptations. It's having a documentary and then also a drama series are in the works. Now that's kind of a lot earlier on. The Romero deal is a bit earlier on. It's very kind of it's in the works rather than it's out on this day, but I think these 3 stories following, and then like in between those, we had like a date for the Tomb Raider animated series that's coming to Netflix in October. Like this, all following like the boost we've seen from Fallout. I think there's a real shift. That shift has been ongoing.
We had the Knuckles TV series recently. There's the Sonic.
We had the Knuckles TV series. Yeah.
And we had the Gran Turismo movie last year, The Last of Us, obviously. Like, yeah, it's not. It's in adaptations for decades.
It feels like it's accelerating, I guess, is what.
Well, it is because the industry's got a growth problem, right? So they're going, right, where do we find audiences? You can find audiences by putting your games on multiple platforms. We're seeing that happen across the industry here, from platform holders like PlayStation, Xbox, to Square Enix talking about their multi-format strategy. Then putting more of their games on mobile. You're starting to get more AAA content on mobile. That's part of the strategy. Subscription's part of the strategy. Streaming's part of the strategy. Moving into different countries and territories with content that's local content. I hate the word local content. Games basically that's localized for those markets and targeting those markets, more diverse games. All that kind of stuff is like all about widening the audience, but so is putting games into TV shows and films and investing in them hard. The TV and movie industry, particularly the movie industry's got their own challenges as well. Tapping into games is an opportunity for them to reach audiences they're not reaching, and bring get people away from their TVs and the cinemas and all that kind of stuff. So it suits both sides, and it's a way for look at the Mario movie last year boosted sales of Switch consoles. Last of Us, Sony did very little to market The Last of Us and PlayStation alongside The Last of Us TV show, really, by comparison. But it did have a positive impact on The Last of Us game sales. And now we're seeing, you saw Bethesda really leaned in with Fallout. And it's worked out well for them. They've built a big audience.
Oh, the impact of Fallout was incredible. Covering the charts, obviously, we saw like Fallout 4 being the most recent like retail release, recent mainline retail release, that obviously boosted. But we saw Fallout 76, like the online game, like really kind of boosted. The fact that even New Vegas was among the most played games in the US on Steam.
It did help. They reduced the price down.
Absolutely, heavily discounted. But it's really funny seeing like a really, really old game.
Well, actually, you say it's pretty funny. I think it's our age, right? Because here's the thing. I did a talk recently at Comic-Con, and here's the thing. The idea in 2005 of me playing a game from 1995, and if you're not into retro gaming, was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not playing Donkey Kong Country. I'm playing Mario Sunshine or whatever, right? I'm playing Mario Galaxy. It's like you wouldn't do that. However, the idea today of playing a game from 2014 actually isn't that mad.
No,
Fallout 4 is 2015. GTA 5 is still in the top 5. Came out in 2013. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. When was that released? 2014. 10 years old as well. Right, these are games that are, and that's how that sort of represents how the industry is shifting, and that's what it's both a good thing because it's great for the art form. It's somewhat challenging for those releasing new games. You're competing with, and if you're new, so it's the thing when the pandemic hit and it caused an influx of people, perhaps lapsed gamers picking up their console for the first time. They didn't buy Final Fantasy VII Remake and The Last of Us Part 2. Those games did well, by the way, but those games didn't boost anywhere near as much as games released in previous years because people went, I'm going to play that amazing game from 2 years ago because it still looks amazing, still plays amazing. And that's what, and it was those games that really boosted the market that time. So yeah, I've gone completely off topic. But the point is, you can release a TV series based on something from 4 or 5 years ago. People were going, "Oh, Fallout TV series has done really, really well," but there's not even a Fallout game. No, there's loads of Fallout games.
Yeah,
and people are quite happy to go back 10 years and play them.
Agreed. I'm going to wrap it up there because we have massively gone over time. We are going to be back at some point next week. We're actually debating whether we shift the Microcast towards the end of the week, but keep you posted. The Microcast is continuing, that's the main thing. We've also got to work around your schedule because you're off to LA this week, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to see some games.
You're going to go see some games at some sort of fest during the summer.
Yeah. During which isn't E3, but
which isn't E3.
Starting to look a lot like E3. But actually, Can I plug something during the period of time?
You can absolutely plug something. Yes.
Although we obviously check out GI for all the coverage, analysis, interviews, blah blah blah. But on Sunday. Yeah, that's a good start. Sunday at 2 p.m. LA time, 2:50. I'm going to start again. On Sunday at 2:50, I've got everything wrong there. At 2:50 on Sunday at IGN Live, GamesIndustry.biz is taken to the stage with Michael Pachter, Sean Layden and Van Burnham to talk about the future of where we will be playing video games, looking at the state of the console market and where people are buying and playing games. We'll cover things like streaming and the metaverse, and Metaverse, Fortnite and Roblox, that sort of stuff during the whole thing. They've very kindly put us up against Phil Spencer, which means that you might want to watch us on video on demand afterwards, because I suspect I want to tune in for Phil Spencer. I'm sitting there thinking, do I have to turn up to my own panel? But yes, if you are around, you're not interested in the Xbox bit, come along and enjoy it and see us there. And if you miss it, there'll be an article on GI. There's a video on IGN. You can watch it back there.
Marvellous. Plug accomplished. We are going to be back at some point next week. Keep an eye on GI for all of the biggest news coming out of Summer Game Fest, Summer Game Showcases, not E3, whatever the hell you want to call it. We are going to be back soon. You can find all previous episodes of this podcast and the Microcast on the podcasting platform of your choice. Just search for the GamesIndustry.biz podcast. You can find the video versions of this on YouTube, and you can find more news, insight, and analysis into the world behind video games at GamesIndustry.biz. We're going to be back soon. Thank you so much for joining us.